Okay, video number 2, we're talking about other oligopoly types. Okay, first, price leadership oligopolies. Price leadership oligopolies actually have no graph, right? They share the same characteristics but no graph. And this is when you have one dominant firm. One firm kind of rules the roost. This is Apple in the smartphone world, for example. And so that dominant firm determines when it's right to move their price up. And so they will change their price up or down, and then everyone else follows the leader. There's no graph here because pricing is not contingent on any change in demand or cost or marginal revenue or anything like that. Our price is determined by the price leader. They get to decide, and the rest of us just follow. Right? So there's no graph there, but keep that in mind. Price leadership, no graph, but one firm, dominant firm, leads the way. Everybody else follows the leader in a price leadership oligopoly. Now, what about a colluding oligopoly? Well, in a colluding oligopoly, this is where the firms decide, you know what, there's an incentive to collude. And actually, if we go back to this last one, I'll show you right here real quick. If we go back here, we can see the incentive to collude. They end up both pricing low, if you saw the last video. That's their Nash equilibrium. But if they just work together, they could both price high and get $20 each. So the incentive is to cheat, to talk to each other and set a price together. That's what we mean by collusion, right? So they're going to try to collude to try and increase their prices. And so what they do is they create rules for how to play the game, and they punish anybody that is going to cheat. Because even when I'm doing a colluding oligopoly, there's still an incentive to cheat and get more money by doing the thing that other people think I'm not doing. We actually saw an example of this when I did our little challenge with the bonus points thing. I said, look, hey, try and figure out if nobody sends me anything, you'll all get bonus points. Right? So you guys saw that. You try to form a cartel. You said, okay, here are the rules. Here's what we do if somebody cheats. But then inevitably, there's still an incentive to cheat, and somebody does, right? Because, hey, you get 2 points if nobody does it, but I could get 20 points if I'm the only one that turns in a question. And so as a result, the cheating happened, like it always does, and then you guys are left trying to figure out what your punishment is going to be for that person. So that's what happens in colluding oligopolies. This is only going to occur when they have similar demand and similar costs, right? Otherwise, there's no reason for us to collude when I can beat you in the marketplace, when I have more profits than you. But if we're very similar profits and they're not very great, then we stand to gain a lot from colluding. Now, finally, they actually act like a monopoly. It's like this graph over here. They have marginal revenue and demand, and all collectively together, they are acting as one entity. They set the price based on what the demand can contain. They set the quantity that they're selling based on the marginal revenue, marginal cost of all of the firms combined. They get a profit, which is a difference between the average total cost and the revenue right there. Right? It's a monopoly graph. Okay, so when you see this monopoly graph on the test, you have to be identified that, yeah, that's a monopoly, and that must be a colluding oligopoly here because they act as monopoly and then they split up the profits. Okay, let's move on. Oh, I should mention, you don't have to calculate price for it or necessarily cost for it, but you do have to be able to analyze it. So I'm not going to have you draw one of these, but just like last unit, be able to analyze a monopoly. And this is a normal profit-making monopoly, so it shouldn't be all that bad. All right, next up is a non-colluding oligopoly. A non-colluding oligopoly is when they play by the rules, right? They know that they're not allowed to collude. There's no incentive for them to collude. Well, there is incentive for them to collude, but they may not stand to gain as much. And it doesn't overrule the fact that it's illegal. And there's no dominant firm, so it's not price leadership. So all they're left to do is react to the competition. That's actually what we were looking at before when we looked at our matrix. This is a non-colluding oligopoly. So what's that look like graphically? Well, first, before we do that, you have to understand what's happening here. They have to pay close attention to the pricing of the other firms. So firms have a couple of options. If one firm raises their price, all of the other firms are going to ignore it. And then that firm's going to lose all of their customers, first thing. If one firm decides to lower their price, all the other firms don't want to lose their marketplace to them, so they lower their prices as well. They all lose profits, and they don't see a gain in total revenue as a result. So let's jump over here to look at the graph. So here's our kinked demand graph that shows non-colluding oligopolies. And demand is kinked for the reason I just said, right? Firms are going to produce at the price at the bend of the demand curve right here. Why? Well, because if I raise my price, it's highly elastic. All of the firms watch me do it. They're going to ignore it, and then I'm going to lose all my customers. And so my demand is going to fall way, way down. So I'm not going to do that. If I lower my price, all of them are going to match that lower price. And when they match it, any customers I hope to gain by lowering my price go away. And so I see maybe a slight increase in quantity demand, but not enough to offset it. My total revenue falls. It's an inelastic range. So I'm not going to decrease my price either because we all lose profits when I do it. So instead, the incentive is to stay at this equilibrium price at the elbow. In order to show that, we have our dangly marginal revenue here, which gives us the ability to see marginal costs rise and fall. Let's see if I can make it, and fall. And in all those cases, we still have the exact same quantity at these intersections, and you dash up to the exact same price. In other words, costs can rise and fall, and it will not impact the quantity I produce or the price I charge because I don't have control over it. Non-colluding, it's a strategy. I have to follow what everybody else is doing because if I don't, I could lose the entire firm. Okay, hopefully that was helpful to you. Those are all the other oligopolies. Know the characteristics of them, know what graphs they use, and then be able to analyze these graphs. The monopoly graph for a colluding oligopoly and the graph for non-colluding oligopoly where costs can rise and fall, but the price and quantity is always going to be the same. In other words, prices are sticky. All right, see you later.